There's been a lot of talk lately about, well, a lot of talk from some of my teammates about TT bikes, about gravel, about cobbles in road races and their place. And I think the good thing is all of this is coming from a point of safety. Something every single rider in the pro peloton strives towards, something we often feel just there isn't enough of. Like, I know even just recently racing Almeria on the weekend, inside 1k to go, there's just like posts, like bollards that there's no warning for, and we as a peloton have to avoid them. Like, we protect each other. If there's a danger, we don't try and like direct our nemesis teams into those dangers. We try and keep each other safe, which I think is the only sport in the world where we, even though we are competitors, we do all look after each other, because sometimes the biggest enemy is the dangers in which we face out on the road. In races, obviously our training environment is also one of the most dangerous in the world, because we have to train out on public roads, and it's just quite a unique, like if you cross that to other sports, then like runners often use a track or they have like pavements. Racing drivers do not use public roads to hone their race car skills. It's quite unique in that sense. So, but I'm not going to talk about that, because this video would be 100 minutes long. I'm going to talk specifically about TT bikes and why I think that they should stay, but some changes should be made. A timely interval now to thank Surfshark. Ironically, a major part of Vincenzo Nibali's Tour de France win was down to his ability to ride the cobbles, which we're going to talk about in this video. Nibali's nickname is the Shark, and I'm sure he surfs the internet, so there you go. So thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring another tech video. Surfshark, in case you don't know, is a virtual private network, otherwise known as a VPN. And like I said, from personal experience, there are 4 reasons why you need a VPN. The first reason is it hides your IP address, so your city, country and download history are not linked to your identity. The second reason is that it helps encrypt all of your data and keep it safe, like your credit card details and your personal information for when you're on public Wi-Fi. The third reason is if you travel a lot, the chances are you're often logging into dodgy hotel Wi-Fis, like me. You can change location easily, so you can jump into watching Race Pass or anything geo-blocked from wherever you are. Surfshark can unlock more than 15 Netflix libraries all around the world. And the last point is Surfshark uses encryption to protect you against snooper and third-party advertisers, so your data isn't being sold on, and subsequently you won't be inundated with those pesky online dating pop-ups. So you can use my code DOWSET, all in capitals, to get 83% off and an extra 3 months free. Surfshark offer a 30-day money-back guarantee as well, so there really is nothing to lose. Link and everything you need is in the description below. Obviously, I was fully aware of the crash of Egan Bernal, and my thoughts go out to him, his family and everyone, because it's a crash that happens more often than it should. And I've had some opinions on the way time trialing has changed. Like, aerodynamics in time trialing has become so much more important over the last few years. I think because everyone's realised that ultimately that plus power is what wins bike races. And I personally think, and it was a discussion I had with Adam Blythe, he was the one that raised the point, and I wholeheartedly agreed that the whole head down riding thing, and a lot of people blame the shape of the aero helmets, and I don't think that's the case. The aero helmets are not made, a lot of the good aero helmets are made to work in kind of every position. It's not so much of a case of getting your head down to get your head within the silhouette of your body. You can do that, as Victor Campenertz often shows, while still looking ahead. A major part of aerodynamics is to bring your head closer to your hands. Now, what there is a UCI limit on how high the end of your handlebars have to be in relation to your arm pads. So what you can't have is, you see in a lot of triathletes, and Floyd Landis before, in the UK time trial scene where the UCI rules are not present, is you have a lot of much steeper hands, so much lower pads, much higher extensions. And what I think that will do is, a major part to aerodynamics is closing the gap between your hands and the head. And at the moment, because of this UCI rule, we are having to bring our head to our hands. Now, to bring your head to our hands and then to try and look up becomes massively difficult Whereas I think if that rule were to be relaxed, and we were to allow them to bring our hands actually up to our heads, then I think that could help with so much of the head down riding that we're commonly seeing, and could help improve safety. Personally, I don't think we need to ban TT bikes. I think if we ban TT bikes, what happens to the team time trial, which is regarded by a lot as one of the most impressive things that they watch within cycling. And I think, if we were to time trial on road bikes, not much would change, just the speeds would change a bit. Maybe the gaps would actually be bigger because we're all travelling at slower speeds. I might be wrong there. I think I am wrong. But ultimately, it would just be at slightly slower speeds because of because we'd be time trialling on road bikes. But there'd still be a tech element. Thered still be a thing. But yeah, that's my take on time trialing bikes. I don't think they need to be banned. I am biased. I do love a TT. I do love a TT bike. And if TT bikes are taken away, I will no longer be able to do 18-minute time trials around the Malden 10. So maybe that's the root of this. But no, I joke. That is my opinion on this. Let's talk quickly about gravel in road races, cobbles in road races, Grand Tours perhaps, or major stage races. Now, we'll start with an overarching question to this. Is the winner of a race, who should be the winner of a race? Or should it be the best bike rider, the guy who's the fittest, the guy who's the strongest, the guy who has the best team? Or, and I've mentioned this before, should it be the best bike racer? Like, a race is set out and it's how you tackle that race. Now, we saw the edition of the Tour de France that Nibali won. He won that largely down to his ability on the cobbles, and he outshone all of the other GC guys on that day. And he had a phenomenal teammate in Lars Boom that day, and you could argue he was the better bike racer that day. I know some people won't like to hear this, and it's so where does that sit within the Tour de France? I think we have to first ask ourselves, what is the Tour de France and who should win it? So in a relatively normal edition of the Tour de France, it comes down to the best climber with the best team and the best time trialist. But we've actually, the first week of the Tour de France nowadays, it's like the Hunger Games. It's who's left standing, and that, part of that comes down to bike racing, like avoiding the crashes, being up the front, which kind of has nothing to do with, it does have a lot to do with your fitness and your strength, but also your ability to handle a bike. And that is, and hopefully will always be, an important aspect of bike races. So I guess I've provided a discussion point there rather than a categoric statement as to whether cobbles and gravel should be in. What I don't think there should be is just a token section of gravel. When you have got Strada Bianchi, you've got this new Spanish race, they are dominated by gravel. But when you put in just one token section that becomes a headline on all the press, what we've found as racers is that nobody wins a race on that gravel sector, but plenty of guys puncture and lose it. And that's why I don't think they should, I don't think that should feature so much in racing. If you're going to have gravel in a race, make it a major focus of that race where bike riders' abilities are what wins, rather than a bike rider's luck of the draw to not have a puncture, because I think that's I don't think anyone wants to see that really. So that's my take on gravel is, Strada, races like this, they're great. The gravel is the focal point of the race, whereas just chucking, I think we had it in Paris Tours, Plouay, GP Plouay a few years back, there was just one section of gravel and it didn't do anything other than a few guys lost the race there, a few guys punctured, and that was that. So I think that's my take on those sections. I think if we're going to put that stuff in, then make sure it challenges a bike rider's ability to ride it, rather than just one token straight section where you're just riding through it praying that you don't puncture. So I think that's all I've got. I am all for safety. I think there's far bigger issues at the moment than TT bikes and such like, and unfortunately they're the issues that we've been banging on about for the last few years. But you know, my first race this year, you'll see on Ben Swift's Instagram, it just seems not much is changing, and maybe sometimes we just focus on the small things that we think will affect safety rather than the bigger thing that's going to affect safety, and that's, like I said, the things that we've been talking about for a long time, like barriers, obstacles in the road, hazards, just all of those things that actually can be avoided. So yeah, I think it's important to talk about these things. I think it's great that Chris and everyone that does talk about it brings a voice to it, and I think it's great that everyone has sort of opinions, whether they be differing or the same, and there's a hell of a lot we agree about. But you know, I want to keep time trial bikes. Surfshark would want to keep time trial bikes as well, I'm sure of it. So let's keep the time trial bike and let's focus on improving the safety in other ways. Thanks for watching, see you next time. Just as a last note, if all of my compatriots, bike riders, keep trying to start a campaign to remove TT bikes, I'm going to start a campaign to remove mountains from races. You know, they're dangerous, you know, all those downhills. The mechanics, difficult for the mechanics, got to change all the gears. Just pose, you know, and they influence races as well, far too much. Very influential to race results. So, you know, that's a threat. You know, I'm gonna begin a campaign to remove mountains from races because it's for your health. And I promise now, there's more riders who'll be willing to remove mountains from races than there will TT bikes, because you've got two kinds of time trialist. You got the specialist, and you got everyone else that just takes a rest day on the TT day. Whereas mountains, everyone's got to ride up them, and they hurt for everyone. And the only people that enjoy them are the ones that are good at them. So leave that. I'm going to leave that in your minds for thought. Think of it. It is a threat. It's a definite threat. Leave the TT bike alone.